Let's begin by again singing our 23 consonant song. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Wow, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Tzadei, Kof, Reis, Sin, Shin, Tau. And of course, hopefully by now you have this chart memorized. It will be on the final exam. You'll have to fill in the basic noun pattern using the word horse. So although horse doesn't appear in its frequency in the Old Testament over 500 times, you better know the word horse and its various basic noun pattern endings. Of course, the masculine singular does not have an ending. It's simply good. And the masculine plural is simply good. Feminine singular for mare or female horse. Good. And feminine plural for mares or female horses. Good. Okay. And then the dual form, if you were to have a sort of two-horse chariot, is that could be a nice extra credit point. So if we were to do our soft shoe song, Sus, Susim, Susa, Susot, Susayam, basic noun pattern. Sus, Susim, Susa, Susot, Susayam, basic noun pattern. Of course, it'd be a good idea for you to learn the two Tommy Tutor rules. Maybe I need to figure out a faster way to say that. The two tutor Tommy rules, the Tommy two tutor rules. So it seems like we got to get Tommy's name in there. Tommy, of course, one of our students in the Hebrew program. The first way of recognizing that a shva is going to be a silent shva is good, short than silent. And the second rule is right, good. When two shvas go a walking, the second one does the talking. The two Tommy Tutor rules that are hopefully going to help you pronounce well consistently, help to know where the syllables are. Another way of looking at this is when a shva is vocal, it's going to be the initial shva, that is the shva under the initial consonant, that it's vocal. When you have a dagesh forte in a consonant, you have the doubling of the consonant, and therefore the first shva under the first consonant of the doubled consonants is going to be silent, closing that syllable, and the second shva under the doubled consonant, the second of the doubled consonant, is going to be vocal. And that is because when two shvas go a walking, the second one does the talking. And with a doubling of the consonant with the dagesh forte, you're also going to be doubling the shva. And the first one's going to be silent, and the second one is going to be vocal. And also just be aware that after an unaccented long vowel, you're going to also have a vocal shva. It'll be the start of its own open syllable. Here's some rules to keep in mind. You might want to make some grammar cards on this. An accented syllable, the tone syllable, the tonic syllable, must have a full vowel. That means it cannot be reduced. It cannot be a hatef vowel. It cannot be a shva. It's got to be a full vowel. That's your long A, I, E, O, U class vowel or your short A, E, I, O, U class vowel. It's got to be a full vowel, not a hatef vowel or a shva. This one has been helping me a lot. It's the OUS rule. Open, unaccented syllable is never short. OUS, not short. OUS, not short. Open, unaccented syllable is never short. And then its kin, the cussing, as one person would call it, is the closed unaccented syllable must be short. Closed unaccented syllable must be short. Closed unaccented syllable, the cuss, must be short. Those two are very helpful. O-U-S, not short. Cuss, short. Now we're going to turn to chapter 6, page 47. We're going to be looking at prepositions. We've had prepositions somewhat shared with us back in chapter 4 in the additional information. Now we're going to explore that more, and hopefully you're going to see the various rules starting to reinforce themselves in these connections that are occurring with the definite article, the while conjunction, and here with the prepositions. Prepositions are small words that can be difficult. They describe relationships, particularly spatial relationships or temporal relationships. Three types of prepositions that we're going to be looking at are the independent prepositions, the makif prepositions, and the inseparable prepositions. Independent, makif, and inseparable. Let's look at independent prepositions. This is page 47. Independent prepositions stand by themselves. They're not connected to the noun in terms of having the consonants together or connected by the makif. They're just syntactically by word order connected, and they appear before the noun that they are connected with to help identify the relationship either spatially or temporally. These are called independent prepositions. Let's look at the example they have before us. You are familiar with the noun that has the definite article now, the hey with the patak, followed by the Dagesh forte in the mem, melek, that segulate noun. So put it together with the definite article. Ham melek, ham melek, ham melek. And then the preposition before it is lifnei. Lifnei, that's that lamed preposition plus panim, right? Face. So to the face or before the king. Lifnei. And then the next one is temporal independent preposition. Acher, acher, acher. And then we have the definite article attached to the noun. So the hey with the patak, followed by the dagesh forte in the mem with the patak, followed by the bait with, is that a dagesh lina? Dagesh forte. Dagesh lina, dagesh forte. Remember, a closed, unaccented syllable must be short. Therefore, it has to be a dagesh forte to close that syllable because of the short A-class patak. So it's mab, and then the last syllable is a bait, hard sound again, with what? What's that next dot? You're correct. It's a shurek. Mabul, right? So ham mabul, hamabul. So acher hamabul, acher hamabul, after the flood. And of course, the quiz was, what are those three dots? It's a good way for you to reinforce what you've learned in chapters 1 through 4. The makef prepositions, remember that makef is the elevated hyphen. I often say that in the early lectures just to get you used to the makef as a technical term, the elevated hyphen. As we move on in the lectures, I hope not to have to say the elevated hyphen, but rather just the makef. It attaches and creates a word unit with the noun that follows or the word that follows. And you see this with, in particular, the ayin with the patak, followed by the lamed with the makef, so al, or the aleph with the segel, followed by the lamed with the makef, so that's el, meaning to, toward, and then the ayin with the patak, dalet, makef, ad, until as far as, and then the min preposition, the mem with the hirek, final form nun, makef, from, out of. Let's take a look at how the makef creates actually a word unit. In terms of accent, it becomes a word unit. So the word there is even, meaning stone. Even, we get the word Ebenezer, stone of help, Ebenezer. Even, but it's a segulate noun. We have attached to it a definite article. That's a hey with a patak followed by a dagesh. However, the guttural resists the dagesh, and therefore we have compensatory lengthening. The expected patak becomes a comet, so it's ha-eretz, ha-eretz, plus the preposition al-ha-eretz, hal-a Erven. I was thinking of Aretz, Eretz into Haaretz, but now it's Evan. So it's Al Ha-Evan. Al Ha-Evan. Got to learn to keep my eye on the right word because down below is where we have Eretz. But of course, with the definite article, we have the changing of not only the patak to a comets, but also in this word we have the changing of the segel to a comets. Haaretz, haaretz, with the preposition connected by the makef. It's min haaretz, min haaretz. These are makef prepositions. This is where we'll spend a considerable amount of time with what we call inseparable prepositions. Why do we spend a considerable amount of time? Because of footnote number 1 on page 48. There are 3 inseparable prepositions in Hebrew. There's the bait or b, meaning in, by, with. There's the k or kaf preposition, like, as, according to. And then there's the lamed preposition, l, to or for or toward. And these 3 inseparable prepositions occur almost 39,000 times. The b preposition, the bait preposition, over 15,000 times. The k, kaf preposition, over 3,000 times. And the lamed preposition, l preposition, over 20,000 times. You want to know these prepositions. They're inseparable because they're attached directly to their nouns or verbs, as we will learn. Inseparable prepositions. Let's look at when they are attached to words that they're able to maintain their consistent lexical forms. So the b, k, and l. So with sadeh, you attach the b preposition, it becomes b'sadeh, b'sadeh. With melech, you attach the k inseparable preposition, it becomes kamelech, kamelech, kamelech. And then with na'er, 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 that's that segulate noun, yes. You attach the l, lamed preposition, it's l na'er, for a young man. So this is the attaching of the inseparable preposition, and there's no change. You have the b, k, or l. However, just like we saw before, the I like your tie, the I like your tie. Well, we saw this with the conjunction wow. We'll see this also with prepositions. Before a reduced vowel, or what we call the hatef vowels, right? Hatef patak, hatef segel, hatef comets. The inseparable preposition takes on the corresponding short vowel of the hatef vowel. We've already learned this with the conjunction as well as what we learned in the additional information in chapter 4. So the bait preposition attached to emet, emet, becomes ba'emet, 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 in truth. Same with anashim, anashim, attached with the preposition ka, becomes ka'anashim, 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 ka'anashim. And same with for sickness, the lamed preposition, the l preposition, becomes that short O class, and so it has a virtual doubling. All of these do to maintain the integrity of the closed unaccented syllable rule. Must be short, so it's la'ali, 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 for sickness, la'ali. Just as we saw with the attaching of the wow conjunction, so also we see with the lamed preposition to Elohim. This goes all the way back to page 35 in chapter 4, what they call the exception to the second rule of Shva. Elohim, when it has the conjunction or the lamed preposition or any inseparable preposition, the expected vocal schwa becomes a tsere. So with the lamed l preposition, it becomes lelohim, lelohim, to God. Of course, this is coming off of the second rule of schwa. What I like to say is the I like your tie. Imagine the tie matching the handkerchief. Because the vocal schwa cannot precede a guttural with a reduced vowel, a hatef vowel, the vocal schwa takes on the corresponding short vowel. The example they gave us on page 35 in chapter 4 was chalom, chalom, and then we attach the b, the bait preposition. The vocal schwa says, I like your tie, and so we have the matching of the tie and the handkerchief, and it becomes bachalom, bachalom, in a dream. Lastly, before consonants with vocal schwa, inseparable prepositions will be spelled with a hirek, the short I class vowel. So the schwa, the vocal schwa that we expect underneath the inseparable preposition becomes a hirek. This is in part to maintain the integrity of the two Tommy Tudor rules. Maybe two Tudor rules is better. Sorry, Tommy. This is the two contiguous side by side. Remember the second rule of the two Tommy Tudor rules, which is when two schwas go a walking, the second one does the talking. Well, how does that work when you got two vocal schwas combining? Well, in this case, we see the appearance of the hirek. So in the word that will mean with an arm, it's bizroa, bizroa. Bizroa. Yes, it's a bait with a dagesh lina because it's the initial consonant. Hirek, short I class vowel, so the syllable is closed with a zayin and a silent schwa, biz, and then we have a resh with a holam wow, furtive patak under an ayin. Bizroa. How about with the word sheol? Sheol, with the kaf preposition, the k, the vocal schwa becomes a hirek, so it's a kaf with a dagesh lina because the dagesh lina is in the initial consonant, the hard sound. The expected vocal schwa becomes a hirek, so it's k, and then we have the shin closing the syllable with a silent schwa, short then silent. That's the two Tommy Tudor rules. So kish, ul, kish, ul, kish, ul. And then lastly, with the lamed preposition, the l preposition, in this case, we're going to lose the dagesh lina that's expected in the bait, and it's become liv rit, liv rit. And the critical picture is this, that you have in the inserted box the two Tommy Tudor rules. I'm trying, Tommy. The two Tommy Tudor rules, short then silent, and then two schwas go a walking, the second one does the talking. And we go back to what is said on page 48 is just a continuation of the additional information from chapter 4, page 35, whether it's going to be a hirek followed by a silent schwa in the first inserted box, or as we saw, sometimes you're going to see it appear as a hirek yod in the second inserted box, like we see here with the bait preposition attached to Yehuda, and it becomes Behuda. We've heard this before several times in this lecture. In nouns with a definite article, this can be somewhat unusual. So what do? The vowel and the dagesh forte of the definite article are retained, but the consonant of the preposition punches out. Okay, we'll do the softer. replaces the hey of the definite article. I like the idea of the punching out. We had a student in Hebrew 1 a few years back. He actually was trying to initiate a boxing club on the Erskine campus because he was concerned about the fight club that's on the Erskine campus. Should I be saying this on a recorded lecture? He wanted to actually legitimize some of the fight club things that were going on, and so he wanted to have a boxing club. And so for this, it's a picture in my mind of what's happening here, where the preposition consonant punches out the hey consonant, but the vowels, if you will, the spoils of war of knocking out the hey is kept. That's the consonant as well as the dagesh forte. Let's look at the examples, and maybe my punching picture will help you. Midbar. Midbar. That's a mem with a hirek, dalet with a silent shva because short than silent. The next syllable is a bait with a dagesh lina because it's following a consonant with a silent shva with a kametz resh, bar. So midbar, a wilderness. We want to make it the wilderness, so we add the hey with the patak and the dagesh forte, doubling the mem. So it would be hey with the patak mem, and then the next syllable would be mem with the hirek dalet silent shva, and then the next syllable would be the bait with the dagesh lina kametz resh. Ham mid bar, hamid bar, hamid bar. But now we want to make this into a prepositional phrase. The preposition comes in, the b preposition punches out the hey, but keeps the patak and the dagesh forte. So it's now bamid bar, bamid bar, bamid bar, bamid bar. We can see that again with melek. Melek. We've already know how to make it definite by adding the hey with the patak and the dagesh forte. Hamelek, hamelek. And the k preposition, the kaf preposition comes in, punches out the hey, keeps the treasure trove of the patak and the dagesh forte. So it's kam melek, kamelek, kamelek. And we see that with isha, isha. Here we have the definite article attached. Of course, the dagesh is rejected by the guttural letter aleph, and therefore we have compensatory lengthening. The expected patak becomes a comet, so it's a hey with a comet, followed by a aleph with a hirek, followed by a shin. It's a dagesh forte in the shin, so the next syllable is going to also have a shin with a comet's hey. Ha-isha, ha-isha, the woman. But we're going to make this into a prepositional phrase. The lamed comes in, punches out the hey, keeps the spoils of war of the definite articles vowel and the compensatory lengthening of that vowel. So it's a lamed with a comet. La isha, la isha, la isha. This often confuses students. Maybe even now you're trying to put your mind around the fight club or the boxing club or the punching out of the hey of the definite article. So let's go through this step by step. Kind of cast your mind back to Sherlock Holmes and when he's in a fight, how his mind is so moving so fast he can think through every move of the opponent, and it does it in almost slow motion. And we're going to do this in slow motion so you can see the boxing match occur. Step one, you have the definite article attached to the noun. In this case, the noun is sus. The definite article hey with the patak and the dagesh forte in the next consonant, which is a samek. So the doubling of the samek, we know it's going to be therefore two syllables. Has sus, has sus. Hey with the patak, first samek, and then the next syllable samek, shurek, samek, has sus. Along comes the bait, the b preposition to make it a prepositional phrase. It comes in and it punches out the hey, and the vocal shva of the bait kind of goes away, but the hey gets punched out, and therefore the bait is attached to the vowel and dagesh forte that was there, so it's a bait with the dagesh lina because it's the initial consonant, followed by the patak, followed by the samic with the dagesh forte. So bass as the first syllable, and then the second syllable is sus, bassus, bassus. This would be a great example for, again, what are those three dots doing? The first dot, of course, signaling the dagesh lina, the second dot signaling a dagesh forte, and the third dot signaling a shurek. This might be a good question at some point in the future. Look at other examples there on this slide about ha'ir with the b preposition becomes ba'ir, or here you have with the, remember the hay with the segol when it's attached to a ayin with a comet, right? The hay with the segol as the definite article. Hey afar becomes be'afar, the prepositional phrase in the dest. Be'afar, or you can see that with the k calf preposition, like as, or the l lamed preposition, to or for. Okay, just consider that as you are trying to reinforce this with your review, repeat, review, repeat, review, repeat. Here's another slide. Sent this to you by email. Hopefully this will be helpful. It kind of reviews the basic rules of inseparable preposition directly attached to words. They are not independent, but actually attached to words. So k, b, l, and k there. So b, in, by, with, l, to, for sometimes means of, toward, directional toward. It could be the next inseparable preposition k, like, as, according to. And then parenthetical number 2, in nouns without the article, the inseparable prepositions are simply attached as b, l, or k. So sade with the preposition becomes basade, and we've seen those others. Number 3, of course, is the punching out that you want to be aware of. The punching out, where the preposition consonant punches out the hey of the definite article and takes on the treasure trove of its vowel and the dagesh forte. On page 49 is a special focus on the min preposition. It can occur as a makef preposition or an inseparable preposition. Obviously, the makef preposition of min is not too difficult to grasp. Basically, you will see it attached with the elevated hyphen makef, and so from the house would be min habayit, min habayit. Again, the min, mem with the hirek, followed by the final form with the makef. It becomes a word unit with the hey, with the patak, and the doubling of the hard sound with the dagesh forte, with the patak, yod, hirek, tau. So min habayit, min habayit. However, when it becomes an inseparable preposition, we have to do a little bit more work. The first thing that happens is the nun, as a weak letter, assimilates. That means it sort of enters into the first consonant, not as a nun, but is represented as a dagesh forte. So with the makef, it's min melek, but when the min acts as an inseparable preposition, the nun assimilates into the mem, the second mem there, as a dagesh forte. So it's mim mel lek, mimelek, mimelek, mimelek. Mem with a hirek followed by a mem. And then the next syllable, of course, is open. It's mem with a segol. And then the next syllable is lamed segol, final form kaf, with the often occurring silent shva on the final form kaf. Mim melek, mimelek, mimelek. Just as we saw with the definite article, when it's attached to a bagad kapat consonant, so also when the min is attached as an inseparable preposition to a word that begins with a Begad Kapat consonant. The Dagesh line of the Begad Kapat consonant becomes a Dagesh forte. That means it becomes the doubling of the hard consonant. So remember again on page 38 some of those rules that were brought out when the definite article was prefixed to the Begad Kapat consonant, because we see it again here. The nun assimilates into the next consonant, and when the next consonant is a Begad Kapat consonant, the expected Dagesh lina doubles the hard sound because it becomes a Dagesh forte. On page 50, we see compensatory lengthening at work. This is when the min is attached to a word that begins with a guttural consonant, in particular looking at aleph, ayin, and resh. Like we saw before with the definite article, so we see now that we're going to have compensatory lengthening where the nun assimilating, becoming the Dagesh forte, that becomes rejected by the guttural letter, and therefore the expected hirek under the mem lengthens to a tsere. So with the word ish, when we attach the min preposition to make it a prepositional phrase from a man, the expected hirek under the mem compensatory lengthens to a tsere because the dagesh forte has been rejected by the aleph guttural letter. So it's meish from a man. We see that also with ear, right? Ayin is a guttural letter. It rejects the dagesh forte, so the assimilated nun that comes as a Dagesh forte gets rejected, and compensatory lengthening occurs where the expected hirek under the mem becomes a tsere. Meir, from a city, the prepositional phrase. Meir, compensatory lengthening. You can also have this when there's a definite article, right? Because the definite article, hey, is a guttural letter. And so we have already seen haaretz, hey with the comets, the accent, the tone syllable on the p note. So the aleph with the comets accented, and then the final syllable resh, segel, final form tzade. Haaretz, we attach the min preposition as an inseparable preposition. The nun assimilates, however, the hey rejects that assimilation, so it rejects the Dagesh forte, and so compensatory lengthening, the expected hirek under the mem becomes a tsere. Me haaretz, the prepositional phrase from the land. Then we look at C, you're aware of this, virtual doubling. This is to maintain the integrity of the closed unaccented syllable must be short. Closed unaccented syllable must be short. So when we're looking at something beginning with a chet, the nun assimilates, but the chet as a guttural letter rejects it. However, there's no compensatory lengthening. Rather, there is virtual doubling. To maintain the integrity of the closed unaccented syllable must be short, so it's mechutz. Sometimes we'll actually see compensatory lengthening in certain words, as we see there in their example. The cherev with the mem and the tsere showing compensatory lengthening. So mecherev. Welcome to language studies, that we try to have the rules be as consistent as possible, but we're working with a language, and again, not with a code. Let me just remind you of the vowel transformations that occur. You should become familiar with these technical terms so that we can use them and just see them and see how they are showing us whether we have definite article or a preposition. So be very familiar with compensatory lengthening, or I will haunt your dreams with dreadlocks of my own compensatory lengthening. Again, compensatory lengthening is when a guttural letter, particularly aleph, ayin, and resh, resists the dagesh forte. There is compensatory lengthening in that previous vowel. Please also remember propretonic reduction when we're adding on heavy endings like eem and ah and ot. Sometimes you're going to have some seesaw stabilization, or what is technically called a propretonic reduction. We're going to have vowels transform normally in their class, which is why we're learning both the 5-class A-E-I-O-U and the 3-class A-I-U, so that we can recognize this propretonic reduction and have consistency in our pronunciation. Also, as we just saw, the assimilated noon, we'll see this again. We'll see this a lot in semester 2. If you have to, you can just ask yourself, how do you solve a problem like Maria? How do you have the assimilated noon? And then, of course, as mentioned previously, the virtual doubling or seeing my daughter in the mirror, right? Just to maintain the integrity of a closed, unaccented syllable. I know you want to cuss. Closed, unaccented syllable, C-U-S, must be short. What does the min preposition do? As we learned from the vocabulary, it can be spatial, from, out of, but there are three other uses I want to highlight: comparative, superlative, and partitive. Comparative, superlative, and partitive. This is on page 50 in your grammar. We'll look at the comparative. I know this is going to be somewhat awkward because you have not learned some of this vocabulary, nor have you learned adjectives. So I'm going to try my best to highlight what I can, but also recognizing there are just certain things that you haven't learned yet. What I really want to highlight here, of course, is the min preposition, which you hopefully see right here. Okay, there's no other min possibility, no mems there except for the mem comets hey. But there you see the min preposition, right? The expected min. Let me put a little curly Q up there. And what we would want is the final form nun, but the final form nun assimilates into the Zion, right? So Ms. Zahav, Ms. Zahav, and perhaps you remember your vocabulary, Zahav. Zahav some gold, gold, right? Attached to that, we have this prepositional phrase, but rather than expressing space or time, it's expressing some comparison. So this is, if you were just to read this across, changing our font color here, good Hokmah, wisdom. So Tovah Hokmah Mizahav. So if we were to kind of put wisdom in the front, wisdom is better than gold. So comparative use. Basically thinking about using the word than. Another example that we have on page 51, number 2, is when the min preposition, whether it's makaf or as an inseparable preposition, is used as superlative, right? The heightening, the heightening. So particularly this scene with kol, kof, holam, kaf with a dagesh lina, holam lamed, kol, and you can see the min preposition, the mem with the hirek, followed by the assimilated noon appearing as a dagesh forte. So the dagesh lina that is in the kaf becomes the dagesh forte. So this becomes mikol, mikol. This, of course, appears in Genesis chapter 3, describing the serpent, but it's not simply connecting it to the idea from all spatially, kol meaning all, but meaning the most clever, a superlative use. So the clever room from all the living creatures, uh, the field, of the field. We haven't learned quite this relationship yet. It's called a construct relationship. But the critical piece there is the min preposition attached to kol can mean a superlative use. And then let's look at partitive. This one's a little easier. The partitive use, we see peri, meaning fruit. We want to say that the person ate not all the fruit, but a part of the fruit, some of the fruit. So we have the min preposition. The nun assimilates in the pay. Obviously, the pay has a dagesh lina, but it becomes a dagesh forte with the assimilated nun. So mip peri. It's dagesh forte. So if we were to spell this out very literally, we would have the mem with the hirek. Oops, my hirek went way crazy. Followed by the pei. And then we have a silent shva. And then we have the next syllable being a pei, like a hard sound. Remember, hard sound with a vocal shva. I'm going to put my little nose in the pei there. A vocal shva. And then followed by the final syllable, which is a resh with a hirek yod. So 3 syllables. Forgive my computer writing there, but it's mipari, mipari, meaning that the person ate some of the fruit, a portion of the fruit. This is the partitive use. You can see that with anashim, that becomes definite with ha'anashim. Then we have compensatory lengthening, both in the definite article and in the min preposition because of the guttural letters. That's why we have the comets there under the hey and the tsere there under the min. So me ha a na shim, me ha anashim, me ha anashim, me ha anashim. Some of the men, not all of them, but some of them, a portion of them, a part of them. The definite direct object marker. The definite direct object marker. This can appear in 2 different forms with the tsere, the long E-class vowel, 8, and then with the makef, the elevated hyphen, the aleph with the segel, et. Let's look at the definite direct object marker. We're on page 51. We're going to have to use context to determine whether those words are the preposition with or the definite direct object marker. And normally context will help you to distinguish between the two because the definite direct object marker is showing what is being acted upon by the verb. It receives the action of the verb. It would be what we would call in English the accusative case. It points to what is being acted upon by the verb, what's in the accusative case. So again, we don't have all the vocabulary here, but we're going to try to work through some of the Hebrew. This might be just a good exercise as you're reading through your grammar, at least trying to pronounce it, even if you're not recognizing the vocab or the forms. This form here is the verb that's corresponding to this English he wrote. So he wrote what? What did he write? Well, now we have the definite direct object marker. It's definite because we're going to have the definite article there, the hey with the patak and the dagesh forte. So had, and then we have another open syllable because it's a dagesh forte. Duh, that's a vocal shva. Had varim. Hadavarim, hadavarim. Notice the plural ending. Sus, susim, susa, susot, susayim. So there's our plural ending. You know, one of the things that you're going to need to do, I'll change the font. We'll take it as a dark blue. One of the things you're going to be learning to do as we start to read Hebrew is you start to kind of cut off different pieces. So you cut off this because you recognize it so that you can find the vocabulary word. And boy, it's just as messy as what I've written there. That's how it's going to work. That's how it's going to work. Same thing as we see here. You're going to have to locate that bait preposition. And, oh, that's been some punching going on. The bait preposition has punched out the definite articles hey, but kept the patak with the Dagesh forte. You see the Dagesh forte in the Samek, right? Just little rules that you can kind of reinforce, hopefully to retain with good carryover value and then takeaway value for preaching, teaching, and counseling. So what's the whole point of this? Well, it goes all the way back to identifying the et in action. The et is showing what is receiving the action. The action is he wrote the words et. So, katav et hadevarim, hadevarim basefer, in the book, prepositional phrase. Hopefully with your principles of exegesis, you're able to identify how prepositional phrases function, either spatially or temporally. Prepositional phrase. Remember that the definite direct object marker is going to point to what is receiving the action, and they're going to be definite. So you can look and see the definite articles at work there. Hey with the patak, followed by the Dagesh forte. We see it again here. Ha-hechal. Notice the virtual doubling, in order to maintain the integrity of the closed unaccented syllable must be short. So there's actually a hey with a patak followed by a virtually doubled hey, followed by the next syllable, which is a hey with a tsere yod, followed by the next syllable, which is a kaf without the dagesh lina, followed by a kametz lamed. Okay, a lot going on here. The critical point for all three of these is that they are pointing to something that is definite, or as we would translate, the action that is receiving, the. Let's read the third one just for fun. I'll read it in Hebrew. You go through it with me. We'll spell it and read it. So, bana, just to spell it, it's a bait with a dagesh lina. It's the initial consonant of the word. Bana, so bait with a dagesh lina with the comets. Next syllable is noon with a comets hey. Bana. This is to build, or from the word to build. Bana. Here it's translated in the past as we don't have any other context. Please note that in the Hebrew verbal system, time is just as much about the context as it is the actual form. In fact, context is really how we know whether verbs are in the past, present, or future. So bana, hamelech, right? You know that one. Do we have to walk through it? Hey with the patak, followed by the dagesh forte in the mem, segelet noun, because it's got the tone syllable on the penult. It's got a open syllable there with the mem with the segel, and then the final syllable is a lamed with a segel, final form kaf, with the silent shva that's often attached to a final form kaf. Hamelech. And then we have the definite direct object marker, et ha-hechal. Okay, and then lastly, what we haven't learned yet, we'll learn soon, is the adjective, and we'll learn about how the adjective has some similarities in terms of both grammatical gender and definiteness. So that's where we get the great temple, et ha-hechal ha-gadol. Notice also that it doesn't just have to have a definite article to make it definite. It could be a name like Shemuel, Samuel, Shemuel, Samuel. Or it could be a noun that has a pronominal suffix, a possessive suffix, like his book, her sword. So that makes it definite by definition. All three of those will receive the definite direct object marker of 8 or et. You can take a look and see how that is then played out. Shamar, Hamelech, et ha-mitzvah. So ha-mitzvah is a definite noun with the hey, with the patak, and the dagesh forte and the mem, the hirek under the mem with the tzade, with the silent shva, mitz, and then a wow with the comet's hey. Right? The idea the king observed or followed the commandment. The commandment. Of course, you know the next phrase there. We have a wow conjunction, a wow with a vocal schwa attached to the definite direct object marker. Yes, that is possible. An aleph with a segel tau with the makef connected to a definite article, hey with a patak, dagesh forte in the next consonant. So the doubling of the tau, and you are very familiar with Torah, but here we have it in the plural form, feminine plural, ot, right? Sus, susim, susa, susot, torot. Wa'et ha-torot. Wa'et ha-torot. Wa'et ha-torot. We can follow that through on several of the other examples. Shalak, shalak, ha-navi, ha-navi, et hamel la'ak, et hamal ak. Sorry, we have a silent schwa there. Hamal ak. That's if let's spell that out. A obviously direct, definite direct object marker. Aleph with the segel tal, makef, hey with the patak, dagesh forte, the doubling of the men. So ham, and then there. What confused me that I hope you caught was the mem with the patak, short A class vowel followed by the lamed with a silent schwa, so mal, and then ak, the aleph with the comet's final form, kaf with the silent schwa often attached to a final form. So let's go through and pronounce it again. Et ham malak, et ham malak, et hamalak, et ham malak. And again, bring out that a in patak, so et hamalak. Okay, and then you know the next part of that with the preposition aleph with the segol, lamed, makef, the definite article hey with the compensatory lengthened comets because of the guttural letter ayin, hirek, yod, resh, el ha'ir, prepositional phrase, to the city. You can have the definite direct object marker attached to a name like we see in the next example, Yehonatan, Yehonatan. So et Yehonatan, et Yehonatan, Yehonatan. How much David? Achav, David, et Yehonatan. Achav, Ahav, meaning coming from the verbal root of love. And then lastly, you can have the definite article signaling a noun that has a pronominal or possessive suffix. That's the red font in the final example there, where Natan Hamelech et Torotai La'am. Natan Hamelech et Torotai La'am. You have that interesting consonantal cluster there at the end. That's the signal of the pronominal or possessive suffix, which we will learn in I think 2 weeks. Critical point here, of course, for all of these is that the definite direct object marker points to things that are definite. Definite. If the direct object of a verb is not definite, then you do not use the definite direct object marker of et or ate. Not used. So the following examples show you that there is no definite direct object marker because there is no definite noun. So we see an example that was similar to what we saw before. Bana Hamelech, the king built Heichal Gadol, a great temple. Not a specific one, not one that's particular, just he built a great temple. The focus is probably either on the king or perhaps on the king's building, but the focus is not going to be on a great temple. That's just an example of the king's activity or the building. This is important for exegesis in noticing these elements because you want to be able to be aware of what the author is focusing on in the Hebrew and what is unspecified so you can focus on the specified. What's the specified element in this? Well, what has the definite article? Bana HaMelech, the king, built Heichal Gadol, a great temple. What did the young man do? Nat. So Bana, here's another built, and then we have the definite article, hey with the patak, the doubling of the next consonant with the dagesh forte in the noon. Ha-na-er, ha-na-er, getting that segulate accent, the tone syllable on the P note. Ha-na-er, make sure you get the dagesh forte, the doubled noon there. Bayit, so the young man built a house. This house, of course, was katon, a small house. Katon is an adjective. It's describing an attribute of bayit, the house. And then we have a prepositional phrase. That's the bait preposition with the dagesh lina because it's a bagag kapat letter and it's the initial consonant. And look what happened. The preposition punched out the expected hey of the definite article, but took on its compensatory lengthened comets, right? Because of the guttural letter ayin, the expected patak compensatory lengthened to a comets. So there's a signal that this has a definite article, but the bait preposition consonant punched out the hey. So ba'ir, in the city. Bana, hana, er, bayit katon, ba'ir. The young man built a small house in the city. We should probably just review our vowels. This is good for me just as well as for you, particularly because I'm trying to remain consistent with Pratico and Van Pelt's pronunciation. It's very difficult sometimes to overcome the momentum of what I learned long ago. So take a look at our quantity and quality, the long, short, and the last one, hopefully you'll recognize, and of course our A, E, I, O, U for the 5-class system. So the long A class is a, good, comments. Long, well, I think we're doing short A class is, good. Long E class, tsere, good. Long, short E class, segol. Okay, Segol. If you pronounce the name, that's why I sometimes overemphasize Tsere. That's why I have to say Patak, because again, I learned long ago a more maybe lazy way of pronouncing A-class vowels. But for the learning vocab, and at this stage, it's probably best to distinguish between the long and short A-class. How about the short I-class, which is a part of the 3-class system under I class, E class. What's that? The short I class? Hirek, Hirek. Now how about the long O class? Holem, good. And then the short O class. Comets Hatuf, awe as in bottle, aw as in bottle. And then the short U class, which is part of the three class system of the O and U together is a U class, kibbutz, kibbutz. And then the reduced vowels, what we call hatef vowels. So the hatef patak, there, hatef segol, and then the hatef comets, having a short O, a half vowel aw, as in bottle, short half vowel aw. How about when we have vowel letters like hey, wow, and yod? So the A class, these are all unchangeable long. Unchangeable in the sense that they do not undergo vowel transformation. Hallelujah! Not to have to worry about transformation, vowel transformation with these letters, these vowels. So here we have with the A, with a hey, comets hey. We've seen that so many times. How about with the E class with the hey? Two, good. Segel hey and tsere hey. And then with the O class with the hey, holum hey. How about with the wow? We have it in the O class and U class. Good. Holum wow. And then with the U class, oh, you almost said it, but remember the green ogre. Shurek. Shurek. And then with the yod for the E class, two, segel yod and tsere yod. And then with the I class, it's hirek yod. Good. I think we've had a long day. I hope that it's been helpful for you. You can go through this again and again, and we will have opportunities over the course of the semester to continue. Review, repeat, review, repeat, review, repeat, reinforce, retain. And then it has carryover value so that you can enter into the next semester and build on what you're learning, and then takeaway value so that you can apply this to your exegetical work for teaching, preaching, and counseling.